determination is to evolve a well-resourced Senate with a vision and a great sense of commitment to securing a prosperous future for our great nation.
And it is our responsibility as members of this institution to set aside political, ideological, and other differences that may distract us from the assignment the Nigerian people have sent us here to perform.
9th National Assembly kicks off as leaders emerge.
Corruption rewards those who do not play by the rules and also creates a system of patronage where the resources are shared out by a small elite while the majority are trapped in poverty.
President Buhari seeks more action against corruption for democracy to thrive.
Presidential election petition commences hearing of applications on petition filed by Atiku Abubakar and the PDP.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the significance of June 12th as Nigeria's new Democracy Day.
All right, today is June 12th, a day that continues to gain recognition and was a few days ago legally recognized as Nigeria's new National Democracy Day.
That's right, Claire. Now, this is indeed a significant day in Nigeria's political history. It all started in 1993 when the then military regime scheduled a presidential election as part of the transition to civilian rule. Nigerians, of course, went to the polls to choose between two of the candidates in the election.
And that particular electoral exercise, of course, is still on record as one of the most credible, free and fair elections ever conducted in Nigeria. But unfortunately, of course, as we all know, it did not see the light of day. The reason, it was simply annulled by the then military government under General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. And the reasons for that is yet to unfold.
Now, Chief MKO Abiola, who was one of the candidates in the election, was coasting home to victory while the results were being announced before the entire exercise was halted altogether. The nation then went into serious challenges that saw many persons being jailed, others were killed, and some, of course, had their lives altered forever.
Indeed, and over the years, there have been calls for some kind of restitution to be made, at least to recognize the sacrifices that many people made at the time, which eventually led to the transition program of 1999, where, of course, democracy was fully restored.
Now, while previous federal administrations shied away from making June 12 a significant day, of course, in the Southwest, the state governments had June 12 as a celebration. It was the Buhari administration only last year that chose to do otherwise, and it then recognized June 12 and honored the key actors of that moment, including the late Chief MKO Abiola, who is adjudged to have won that election.
All right, Kingsley, and of course, the government led by President Muhammadu Buhari did not stop there. They also designated the day as Nigeria's new National Democracy Day, which has, of course, been marked for the first time today. Now, it is a very big day because it is coming 2 weeks after the inauguration of President Muhammadu Buhari for a second term in office. And of course, many international and domestic guests have already arrived at Abuja for this great event today.
That's right, Clay. Now, of course, what has happened is that there has been an amendment to the Public Holidays Act, so that where previously May 29th was a national public holiday with regard to Democracy Day, it's now officially June 12th, and May 29th no longer is Nigeria's Democracy Democracy Day. But what is the significance of this commemoration to Nigeria's democracy? And what lessons have Nigerians learned from June 12th? After 26 years, what is the reaction of those who were in the thick of actualizing June 12 with regard to this first celebration of it as Nigeria's new National Democracy Day? And how does this recognition heal old wounds of those who suffered losses on account of June 12?
All right, Kingsley, very, very important questions, and the summation of all those questions raised is the way forward for Nigeria's democracy using lessons of June 12 and ensuring that the will of the people is never or will never be truncated under whatever guise. Now, it's on this note, I wish all of us happy new Democracy Day. And as always, thanking you for joining us on this very special edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Claire in also welcoming you to the program. And of course, in the course of the program, we have our regular complimentary segments, and these include newspaper review, business, and others. We're here at the Abuja headquarters studios, where we are broadcasting on Africa's largest television network. Let's take the highlights of the morning news now, and here is Ifeoma Ojinta. Hello, Ifeoma.
Hello, Kingsley and Claire. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. The 9th National Assembly has kicked off with the emergence of its leadership and swearing in of legislators at the Senate. Ahmed Lawan from Yobe State has been elected President of the 9th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as 107 senators-elect were inaugurated.
Elect Ahmed Ibrahim Lawal, 79 votes. Senator-elect Mohammed Ali Ndume, 28 votes. Having scored the highest vote of the total number of votes cast, is hereby returned as duly elected President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And in the House of Representatives, the immediate past House leader, Femi Gbajabiamila, has been elected Speaker of the 9th National Assembly. Femi Gbajabiamila, representing Surulere 1 Federal Constituency of Lagos State, polled 281 votes to defeat his opponent, Representative Mohammed Umar Bago from Niger State, who had 76 votes.
Set aside political, ideological, and other differences that may distract us from the assignment the Nigerian people have sent us here to perform.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has granted audience to the newly elected President of the Senate, Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan, on a thank-you visit. Senator Lawal was accompanied to the State House by the new Deputy Senate President, Uvi Omoagege, and other lawmakers. During the brief but remarkable engagement, President Buhari formally congratulated the new presiding officers of the Senate on their election. He described their overwhelming victory on the floor of the Senate as a clear indication that the 9th National Assembly is united across party lines and committed to working with the executive towards genuinely addressing the fundamental challenges confronting the country for a sustainable future.
And also to assure him that we are ready to unite ourselves in the National Assembly in our two chambers and work to provide those legislative interventions that are critical and necessary for his administration to succeed.
And today is Democracy Day, and dignitaries from various parts of the world are now in the country to join Nigeria in the commemoration of June 12 Democracy Day.
I'm glad that the world sees Africa as not a democratic environment, but to see that one of the biggest African countries to celebrate Democracy Day, I think it's beautiful.
In the biggest democracy in Africa. So Africa is on the march. We are therefore here to sit under the fire with our brothers to share Africa's future, what we are planning. That's why I'm here, to celebrate with you.
I think that is a demonstration for Africa for all of us to move on. And Nigeria is a powerhouse. We believe that if Nigeria should move on, all countries should follow. That's why everybody is here.
President Muhammadu Buhari says for true democracy to survive and thrive in achieving good governance and effective service delivery, political processes must be decommercialized so that free choice of voters can be exercised. Speaking at the National Democracy Day Anti-Corruption Summit put together by the EFCC, the president said this is achievable only if electoral spending and voter inducement by politicians are effectively controlled and combated.
Has lost over 1 trillion United States dollars over the last 50 years. Corruption runs completely counter to our shared values as Africans. The values of justice, the sense of fairness, law and order, equity and equality. Corruption rewards those who do not play by the rules and also creates a system of patronage where the resources are shared out by a small elite while the majority are trapped in poverty.
The Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal sitting in Abuja has struck out 2 preliminary applications bordering on the conduct of the presidential election held on 23rd February 2019. The 5-man panel, headed by Justice Muhammad Ali Garba, gave the ruling at its Tuesday's pre-hearing sitting. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley after this break.
Enjoy the best of African football as NTA, Africa's largest television network and hotspots, Nigeria's foremost sports production and marketing company, bring you all 52 matches of the Africa Cup of Nations, Egypt 2019 live from June 21 to July 19, 2019. Yes, all 52 games will hit your screens in crystal clear digital quality. It's your guarantee of a memorable viewing experience and a wonderful cost-effective opportunity for corporate Nigeria to reach tens of millions of Nigerians. For sponsorship and commercial support, contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. Hot Sports, masters of the game. NTA, you can't beat the reach.
The Presidential Planning Committee for the June 12, 2019 National Democracy Day celebration hereby announces the car parks to be used on the occasion. June 12, 2019 Democracy Day and Cultural Parade by 8 a.m. All special guests are to park at Eagle Square, while all invited guests are to park the vehicles at the underlisted car parks. Old Parade Ground, Area 10, Garki Car Park, Millennium Tower Car Park, Millennium Garden Car Park, Court of Appeal Car Park. Guests are to be moved by shuttle buses to the Eagle Square. Announcer, Boss Mustafa, Chairman, Presidential Planning Committee and Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Welcome back. Now time for us to take some business stories with the Central Bank of Nigeria set to commence the sale of treasury bills worth nearly 9 billion naira. More on this with our correspondent Comfort Amodu.
Within the third quarter of 2019, CBN says it will issue treasury bills worth 8 billion naira on 91 days tenor, 154.04 billion naira on 182 days, and 574.71 billion naira on 364 days. The Apex Bank intends to sell 147.25 billion naira worth of TBS, comprising 8 billion naira worth of 91 days bills and 139.25 billion naira worth of 364 bills in the month of June, while 195.91 billion naira worth of TBS, comprising of 15.9 billion worth of 91 days bills, 46.6 billion naira worth of 182 days bills, and 133.46 billion naira worth of 364 days bills will be sold in July. Similarly, in August, 446.2 billion worth of TBS with 36.77 billion worth of 91 days bills, 107.43 billion worth of 182 bills, and 302 billion naira worth of 384 bills will be sold in the month of August. The Treasury Bills issue program is expected to end on the 29th of August this year. In another development, total liberalization of power sector has been identified as key to stimulating inflow of $30 billion investment in the power sector. The Executive Vice Chairman Alpha African Advisory Mustafa Chika Obi, who stated this, explained that if power business is made profitable and tariff on electricity removed and power companies are permitted to sell to anyone, the nation is sure to generate $30 billion worth of power sector investment within 3 years with stable power supply. And this is the closing figures of trades on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Comfort Amadou.
All right, many thanks to you, Comfort, for the business news. Coming up next is the newspaper review. Stay with us.
Right, our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoyebe, is with us on the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Claire.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria. Happy June 12th Celebration Day.
All right, Claire, let's begin with you.
Okay, so let's start up with Daily Trust. Very, very busy front page this morning, but of course we know what the story it's all about. It's the 9th National Assembly. The headline: 9th National Assembly, APC takes firm control as Lawan Gbajabiamila win. And the writer says, Buhari, we don't desire a rubber stamp legislature. And just a bit down that caption, you find, of course, the different spread, the Senate President, the red chamber statistics there, the vote margins. There you have Senate President, that's Senator Ahmad Lawan, with 79 votes, against Senator Ali Ndume with 28 votes there. And of course, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Moagege, garnering 68, while Senator Ekweremadu with 37 votes. Total votes cast there, 106, invalid, 1 vote. And of course, the Green Chamber, which is also to the right on your screen, you have the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, pulling 281 votes, and the Honorable Umar Bago 76 votes. And of course, the Deputy House Speaker who came unopposed right there. Now you have down there still very detailed statistics, past and present Senate leaders, and of course, past and present House speakers. All right, away from that, there are other stories trending at the bottom of the paper. But let me take you a bit just below the nameplate. Will name, shame, corrupt persons. That's coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. You can find details on page 3. And just before we take other stories, let's... Kingsley, you have other stories from...
Well, obviously, the lead stories and the papers this morning come from the National Assembly. That's the inauguration of the 9th National Assembly and the election of the presiding officers. Leadership has it with a kicker 9th National Assembly will be fair to all. Lawan and Bajabi Amila with 2 riders, their emergence, new dawn for Nigeria. As according to President Buhari, and Omo Agege and Wase elected deputies. You can see the photographs there on the front page. There's also a story on federal government marking June 12 as Democracy Day today, and it is Nigeria that is marking June 12, not just the federal government. Details can be found on page 4. And for the Nigerian pilot, it says also with the kicker, 9th National Assembly, the new faces. And you can see the Senate President, Senator Ahmad Lawan with his gavel, and Femi Gbajabiamila, Speaker of the House of Reps, also with his gavel. A headline below that says how desperate Ekweremadu made PDP lose DSP, that's Deputy Senate President. That can be found on page 5. Bayo, so let's take these stories and then we return to others. But there's just one strip story there at the foot of the front page of one of the dailies, that's Nigerian pilot. Why Lawan and Omo Agege won Senate presidency. That's attributed to Senator's story in greater detail on page 5.
And also, Bayo, if you take a look at the comments coming from both winners and losers, at the National Assembly, that's the legislators, on the front page of Blueprint, quite heartwarming. The Senate President says, I'll be fair to all, while Ndume, of course, who lost, says election was free and fair. And again, you find the Speaker also saying it's time to work for Nigeria. And, the President urging collaboration.
I think it was very reconciliatory in the sense that there was a lot of tension prior to the inauguration. And eventually, Ahmed Lawan emerged the 14th Senate President since our nation gained independence. Femi Gbajabiamila became the Speaker. And this has been described as a very good omen for the new face of democracy in Nigeria. This was the pronouncement of All Progressive Congress from Odo State. It is no longer news that Senator Ahmed Lawan scored 79 votes to beat Ali Ndume, who polled 28 votes. At the roll call, there were 107 senators. 2 from Imo State were absent. One, of course, we all know, yesterday got a certificate of return. Voting was by open secret ballot. 3 senators per state showed that Ali Ndume got voted for by senators from 9 states, which is less than 1/3 of the members that was required. In fact, even the publication on the election day that the PDP has identified him and Bago as their candidate did not help him, because from the PDP senators, from all indications, only about 27 did not vote for him. Ahmed Lawan is the 14th Senate President. At the House of Representatives, before the House of Representatives, Ovie Omo Agege polled 68 votes to beat the erstwhile Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, who polled 37 votes. Ike Ekweremadu did not have 20 of the PDP senators vote for him. In his acceptance address when he was nominated, Ekweremadu has said the context was a referendum. It turned out to be a referendum on his seeking a 4th term as Deputy Senate President. At the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila polled 281 to beat Umaru Bago, who polled 76. There were 358 members on roll call. When the polls were counted, there were 2 members that were absent, but 1 vote was invalid. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has described the emergence of new presiding officers in the National Assembly as a new dawn. He saluted the national legislators for their patriotism and non-partisanship. This is different from duplicity and perfidy of the immediate past, he said. He charged the new leadership of the National Assembly to use their position for higher interests of Nigeria, her people, and the growth of democracy. The executive, he stressed, does not desire a rubber-stamp legislature. However, separation of powers does not preclude collaboration among all arms of government. Neither should opposition be needlessly virulent. He noted that in stepping into the next level, all contestants should join hands gallantly so that Nigeria is people and the elected representatives are all winners. So, very reconciliatory turn. And it was magnanimous of Ali Ndume when he said, look, Ahmed Lawan and I are both competent to head the Senate. And he has promised to give him his cooperation. And that is the spirit that is required to move our democracy forward.
What do you think, what's responsible for the kind of spirit, that we saw? Because it was really heartwarming for many Nigerians, and against all expectations. Some would have said, okay, maybe, the ruling party did a better homework this time.
Yes, they did a better homework. If you remember, 2015, there was a supposed meeting called by the president, which made it appear as if members of the majority party then were majoritarily absent when the election was conducted. And the clerk was obliged to go on with the election at the 10 o'clock, the appointed time. And that is what happened. And so this time around, there was no locking in the car park, and things went normally as is expected. So let's hope that our nation would grow from it. Our democracy is growing. The party majority has learned from its previous mistakes, and we hope that party supremacy, which is gradually coming into fruition, will also be a direction for all political parties. Already, the party had paid prices, you remember, in Rivers and Zamfara. And so...
How did you read the part or the role played by the opposition yesterday?
Well, I'm always reluctant to use the word opposition because opposition is primarily part of a parliamentary system of government. What you require in the presidential system like we have is a multi-party system. But because of the hangover we have about the parliamentary system, where you have the opposition, even there, the opposition is part of the government because they have their own shadow cabinet. But our own opposition is used like what I describe as a PhD, pull him down. The opposition is usually a government in waiting in a parliamentary system. You try to secure a vote of no confidence to, even there, when issues are proposed on basis of policy, you sit to the point of view and bring your own perspective and ideology into what is proposed, not just to reject it outrightly.
Yeah, Bayo, thanks a lot for your analysis. But I think that there's no way of knowing who voted for whom in the elections that took place yesterday, whether in the Senate or in the House of Reps, because it was by secret ballot. And except in the House of Representatives, where there was a semblance of what is popularly referred to as see and buy, because some of the members-elect, after ticking whom they were voting for, will go to where one of the candidates sat and show it to him, before dropping it in the box. But that's what you do with see and buy, as we saw in Ekiti and Osun State. But otherwise, there was no way of ascertaining who voted for whom. But the numbers were there, and the numbers also quite clearly indicated that it was a bipartisan disposition that you saw. The majority party and the minority parties. Of course, the head of the pack of the minority parties being the PDP.
Yes. Well, the inferences are obvious. If, for instance, you expected that there were 59 PDP members in the Senate, and a PDP candidate who contested scored certain, or candidates that were declared to be supported by PDP scored votes less than the total number of PDP senators elect, then the deductions are obvious. Those is where the extrapolation came from by the papers that has indicated the pattern of voting. I agree with you that because it is secret ballot, nobody will have known who voted.
You have no way of ascertaining to say, look, I'm
those deductions are logical.
I know. I mean, that is to say, if the parties were voting as blocks. And in this case, there was no indication that they were voting as blocks. So I think we ought to, leave it at that. I mean, they voted their conscience. One other point, we discussed this yesterday, had to do with, he's still a senator-elect because he has not been sworn in. Former governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, you recall we discussed it yesterday. Before the inauguration, he had not received the certificate of return. And somehow he went to the National Assembly and he was denied access into the chambers, so he had no right of attendance, as it were. More like a spectator who goes to a stadium and the action is taking place in the main pool. In the meantime, he's around the perimeter, and then the spectators are all yelling and hailing as a goal has been scored. So he quietly went home. Went back home and probably watched the rest of the proceedings on television. But
yes, but he should have known.
One of the papers reported that as early as 7:40 he was at the National Assembly. But obviously, without a certificate of return, you will not be admitted into the premises.
Okay.
However, yesterday, INEC did give him a certificate of return on protest. INEC indicated that they have given indication that they are going to appeal the judgment of the Abuja High Court, because the argument the INEC is presenting is that on the grounds that it might set a bad precedent for desperate politicians undermining, disrupting the electoral process and using the judiciary as a legitimate grounds of action. So,
all right. Bayo, okay, let's, just before Kingsley has the editorial, but I'd just like to draw this. It's very, very important. The blueprint has a story on its front page, just below the nameplate. MNJTF, that's Multinational Joint Task Force, is alerting parents, not just parents, all Nigerians, on, of course, plots by the Islamic State of West Africa Province, that is ISWAP, recruitment plans. It says that there are plans to launch recruitment drive in the coming months through misinformation embedded with radicalization programs. And of course, it has warned parents to beware so that, of course, the children are not being recruited by the terrorist organization.
I think the warning is timeless in the sense that they are targeting the youths, and youths are always on their social media platform, and that is the target where they are using. And they will entice them with a lot of dollars, and they will find it attractive. And so this is why the warning is very timeless and real for parents.
Okay, Bayo, some headlines very quickly before I get the editorial. Leadership newspaper. President seeks abolition of bank secrecy at tax havens. And JAMB approves 160 cutoff mark. That's on page 11 for Leadership newspaper. And then at the foot of the front page of the Nigerian Pilot, war against corruption must start from top. That's according to Rwanda president. And INEC server tribunal fixes tomorrow to hear Atiku and PDP's motion. And above that, AFDP, that's African Development Bank, raises alarm over Nigeria's debt servicing rate. Details of that can be found inside at page 35. The editorial is taken from the Punch newspaper, and it's at page 22. Beyond observance of June 12 holiday. That's the title of the editorial. It's actually almost a full-page, it's a full-page editorial together with the cartoon illustration there of June 12 as a Democracy Day. Part of the editorial reads, says 26 years on, it's bitterly apparent that with all our pretense to democracy, there is a frontal assault on the democratic ideals. The June 12 message appears to have taken a detour. And contrary to what happened on that historic day, people's ballots hardly count as elections are mindlessly and violently stolen. In the main, religion and ethnicity determine who gets what, when, and how. We can only envision the sorrow Abiola would endure if alive to see the desecration of the country.
Well, before I go to that, let's make some clarification. JAMB has published cutoff marks. For public universities, it's 160. For private universities, 140. 120 is approved for public polytechnics, 110 for private polytechnics. For colleges of education, it is 100. And admission is to be conducted centrally by the universities. Now, June 12th. Well, the editorial by Punch is happening on the fact that Nigeria has now upheld the sacredness of June 12th. But for it to be meaningful, a lot of the challenges that are associated with our democracy need to be corrected. It says that 26 years on, June 12 has taken a detour. But for that detour to be meaningful, it should not be an anniversary that just reflects the past decisions for the future only. But we should be thinking about the survival of this nation that is currently threatened. They said the fourth lines include constitution that cannot deliver robust development. And therefore, the editorial is calling for amendment to the Constitution. They say the ghost of June 12 will never rest until there is restructuring in Nigeria. Just like June 12, elections should not be a war. And on June 12, Nigerians went to the polls celebrating, not like the recent elections when Nigerians go to polls at tenterhooks afraid of what could happen to them. They said June 12 will remain hollow if the lessons learned from that historic event in 1993 are not used.
All right, Bayo, in fact, that's our topic for the conversation in our segment after we sign you off now. Thank you for being around.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, it's Good Boy Nigeria still on the network service of the NTA. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our principal item for discussion.